Hello, and welcome back to Theology with an English Accent. My name's David, and we're now approaching the end of chapter 2 of Philippians. Let's look at today's text. I hope in the Lord Jesus to send Timothy to you soon, so that I may be cheered by news of you. I have no one like him, who will be genuinely anxious for your welfare. They'll look after their own interests, not those of Jesus Christ. But Timothy's worth you know, how as a son with a father he has served with me in the gospel. I hope therefore to send him just as soon as I see how it will go with me, and I trust in the Lord that shortly I myself will come also. So the text today is pretty short, and the central message is that Paul is telling the Philippians that he's going to send Timothy to them. Now, who was this Timothy? This is the same Timothy that's referenced in verse 1 of chapter 1. He's the co-sender of this letter with Paul. He was a young man. He was recruited by Paul during his second missionary journey, and he was a subsequent travel companion of Paul in his missionary work. We know he had a Christian Jewish mother called Eunice, and his father is just referred to as being Greek, so he was probably a pagan. But he also had a believing grandmother named Lois. Timothy was the co-sender of 6 of Paul's letters, and tradition tells us that Timothy was the first bishop of Ephesus, and that he was martyred there as an old man. Paul goes on to sing Timothy's praises. I have no one like him who will be genuinely anxious for your welfare. They'll look to their own interests, not to those of Jesus Christ. But Timothy's worth you know, how as a son with a father he has served me in the gospel. So Paul speaks about how great Timothy is and how the Philippians know how wonderful this man is. And they know because Timothy was part of the missionary team that founded the church in Philippi. But what I find really touching about this verse is how Paul describes his relationship to Timothy. He describes him as his son. Now, Paul wasn't Timothy's biological father, but he regarded himself as his spiritual father. And Paul does this elsewhere. He refers to himself as being the father of the Corinthians, the father of Titus, another one of Paul's protégés, and a father of Onesimus, the runaway slave referred to in the letter to Philemon. And this is often a cause of concern or confusion for people who don't understand why Catholic priests are called father. They're simply following in the tradition of St. Paul, knowing that fatherhood isn't just biology, it's spirituality. And then Paul concludes with saying, I hope therefore to send him just as soon as I see how it will go with me, and I trust in the Lord that shortly I myself will come also. So hidden in that text was a therefore. So I naturally ask, what's it there for? We have to back up a few verses and just to make sure we understand Paul's flow of thought. So he's been singing the praises of Timothy, saying how great he is, how he has genuine concern for the Philippians. And so what he's saying is, because of all of this, I'm going to send him to you. And Paul even says that he's planning on visiting the Philippians as well, but that depends on how things work out for him, what happens with his captivity. And so now we come to the challenge and the question. Now Paul says that Timothy is genuinely anxious about the welfare of the Philippians. So I'd invite you to consider, in your life, who is it who is genuinely anxious for your welfare? Now by this, I don't mean who are your yes men, who are the people who will always give approval to whatever bad decision you're doing. No, I'm talking about who are the people who are always wanting the best for you and always seeking your good. And likewise, for whom are you doing that? Who are the people in your life for whom you are genuinely anxious about their welfare, genuinely anxious about their good? So now we come to the challenge. Paul says that he's sending Timothy to the Philippians so that he can be cheered by hearing their news, but also because he knows that the Philippians will benefit from having contact with Timothy. So I'd invite you to consider who might benefit from having contact with you. Which of your friends haven't you spoken to in a while that would benefit from a call or a visit? And likewise, which of your friends could be encouraged to reach out to somebody that they haven't spoken to in a while? Last week, I got this card from some friends that don't even live in the country. It wasn't about anything in particular. They just saw it, they thought of me, and they just wanted to let me know that they were praying for me and that they cared about me. And it really brightened up my day. So I'd invite you to consider who you might contact and to whom you might send a card or a message. That's everything for today. So until next time, in the words of Venerable Archbishop Fulton Sheen, God love you.